from the studios of Farm Journal Broadcast.
Coming up on Ag Day.
I think there's a real risk of a trade war breaking out.
Concern in agriculture around potential new tariffs from the White House. Plus, can these soybean prices last?
Soybean meal has led this rally. It's increased in value 25% in a month.
Machinery Pete has some red-hot prices from North Dakota. And mush, the Iditarod, takes off in Alaska.
Ag Day, brought to you by the Chevy Silverado, the most dependable, longest-lasting full-size pickups on the road.
Good Monday morning. I'm Clinton Griffiths. President Trump's threat to impose tariffs on steel and aluminum set off immediate and terse response from lawmakers here at home and from trading partners abroad. Here in farm country, ag groups concerned that agricultural products will be the first to be targeted by other countries who retaliate against the U.S. Even Ag Secretary Sonny Perdue admitting it is a concern.
Tariffs are being considered on China. You also know that typically whenever that happens, then agriculture is always at the tip of the spear. So there's reason for anxiety.
Farm groups also warning that any action to impose tariffs is likely to escalate simmering tensions with China and other U.S. trading partners. Now, concerns in farm country not dissuading the president Friday. The president tweeting on Friday morning that trade wars are good and easy to win. But his comments are bringing harsh criticism from some Republicans and many ag groups. Surrounded by steel and aluminum executives last week, President Trump saying he will impose tariffs on those metal imports in response to what he calls decades of unfair trade policies. The penalties are 25% on steel, 10% on aluminum. The president saying countries like China are dumping steel in the U.S. at unfair prices.
All we want is a level playing field, and today we're not getting that. The cheating is phenomenal. The amount of circumvention that takes place is incredible.
When it comes to a time when our country can't make aluminum and steel, and somebody said it before, and I will tell you, you almost don't have much of a country, because without steel and aluminum, your country's not the same, and we need it. We need it even for defense.
But critics of such a move fear that other countries will retaliate with their own trade penalties, arguing that sanctions on imports will drive up prices and hurt U.S. automakers and other companies that use steel or aluminum. According to the International Trade Administration, the U.S. is the world's #1 importer of steel. It runs well ahead of the #2 and 3 importers, Germany and South Korea. Now, the U.S. sources steel from 110 countries and territories, with Canada leading that list. It accounts for nearly 20% of the steel coming into the country. Now, China barely cracks the top 10 of that list, accounting for about 3%. Yet much of the talk of tariffs and retaliation concern focus on China, and for good reason. Of the $128 billion in agricultural goods imported into China each year, about a third is spent on oilseeds like soybeans.
I think it would be pretty reasonable to argue that if there's a significant price increase in steel and aluminum, we'll see that pass through in tractor prices, combine prices, truck prices. The Chinese, I think, they're not necessarily going to retaliate against these tariffs across the board. I think they're going to selectively pick commodities in agriculture in particular, where a large chunk of the president's base comes from agricultural states that produce those commodities.
Overseas, the president's words brought a stinging rebuke from the president of the European Commission, EU's Jean-Claude Juncker, denouncing the plan as a blatant intervention to protect U.S. domestic industries. The EU promised retaliatory action. The Chinese Commerce Ministry expressed grave concern. The ministry said Beijing has satisfied its trade obligations and appealed to Washington to settle disputes through negotiation. And Canada, the largest source of steel and aluminum imports in the U.S., said it would take responsive measures to defend its trade interest if restrictions were imposed on Canadian steel and aluminum products. U.S. farmers are still on high alert following the president's announcement. Betsy Gibbon joins us with more from the ag industry. Betsy.
Clinton, we expect more details from the president this week on the issue of tariffs, all while the ag industry voices concern, saying, hold on, we don't want retaliatory tariffs or trade war.
Lots of times when a country decides to retaliate on something, they pick on an agricultural product, and that will happen this time.
bold words from the ag industry.
We've heard the Chinese say directly that they would retaliate against American soybean imports to that country. That's a huge deal.
Warning to not start a trade dispute with American allies. That includes a huge market and a big buyer of U.S. products, China.
They buy more of our beans than the rest of the world combined, to the tune of $14 billion last marketing year. That's a lot of beans.
Soybeans aren't the only ones. The National Association of Wheat Growers saying it's extremely disappointed in the decision announced and have repeatedly warned that the risks of retaliation and its potential consequences for agriculture. This all comes during a time when the Chinese government launched an investigation on U.S. sorghum for countervailing duties and anti-dumping.
Is U.S. illegally dumping sorghum into China?
No, we are not, and I think the record will clearly show that over time, and this is the first time our industry's ever been accused of anything like this, and we will continue to work and document that as the process moves forward.
Now, many hope another industry is not targeted next due to steel and aluminum.
Is soybeans the #1 target there?
That's certainly the word. I think it very easily could be, just because we send so many soybeans that way. But, you know, you look at cotton. We send a lot of cotton to China, too.
Ministry of Agriculture data shows Chinese imports of ag products were valued at nearly $126 billion during 2017. Cotton imports totaled $2.36 billion and rose by nearly 33%. Despite a potential trade war, cotton experts say China has a stockpile of cotton, but the country still needs to import product.
They have stocks, but they still need to. Their production compared to what they are producing and their use, their production is far lower than their use. And even though they're getting rid of their stocks, there are still opportunities to move cotton to that area. They will need to have cotton imported.
The president active on Twitter saying products need to be taxed the same between countries. He says, quote, "We will soon be starting reciprocal taxes so that we will charge the same thing as they charge us."
All right, thanks, Betsy. And the trade discussion continues. NAFTA negotiations were underway during the president's remarks on steel and aluminum. Reuters reporting Friday that NAFTA negotiators may have to hold separate meetings to discuss the auto industry. Given these new revelations, the three countries continue to disagree on the U.S. demand that a larger portion of North American auto parts and components come from the U.S. Sydney Clausen joining us this morning for a look at crop comments. Good morning, Sydney.
Good morning, Clinton. Let's start off in Albany, Missouri. Jessica Rolfs says the best naps are with full bellies on a soft bed. Well, the U.S. Drought Monitor says there are plenty of dry places in Missouri. Nearly 90% of the state is abnormally dry. Heading over to Osage County, Oklahoma, Nick Wilson shows us a picture of his office view. He says that it's that time of the year for some mud. Again, the U.S. Drought Monitor says 66% of that state is in a moderate drought. Nearly 44% of that is severe and 33% is extreme. And talking about rain and mud, well, you know, you could definitely see where we had a lot of rain in the eastern half of the country over the last week, especially as you get down into the southern United States, Tennessee, parts of Mississippi, very heavy rain, but that stretched all the way up into parts of the northeastern United States as well. So obviously we've had a lot of flooding in much of the eastern part of the country over the past week and a half to 2 weeks. Well, that's a look at some of your national forecasts. I'll have more coming up in a few minutes, but now here are some hometown temps.
Ever wake up wondering what does today's weather have in store? Well, with weather updates, it delivers the local forecast right to your cell phone each morning to make preparing for the day easier. Just text Weather 6 to 31313 to get started.
All right, when we come back, can the soybean market sustain its recent rally? And later, Machinery Pete.
Stay tuned, folks. Coming up, I'm going to take you to southeast North Dakota for 2 red-hot auctions last week.
And these mushers and their companions face some of the most treacherous winter weather possible as they trek the Alaska wilderness. But this year, the Iditarod has new obstacles to overcome. Details as we head in the country.
With a uniquely powerful formulation of proven ingredients, Resicor corn herbicide gives you extraordinary power.
Who wants dessert?
At least when it comes to weeds.
In agribusiness, it was a mixed day Friday in the grain markets. Let's see how the commodity markets ended the week from the floor of the CME.
Wheat really pulled back today. It seems like the new high definitely sparked that profit taking, and wheat hit its highest numbers since last August. So it was a really strong market. But in spite of the fact that we're down 16 cents, we're still up 10% on the week. So wheat still looks very strong. Soybeans were really firm. The market opened and traded a little bit higher, but the Argentine soy crops are still threatened by the severe drought that's happening down in South America, and it seems that the futures really jumped out to a brand new high at 1082.5, but it didn't hold. Definitely sparked some selling and profit taking here at the end of the week. That's all from the floor at the CME Group here in Chicago. I'm Virginia McGathy.
Well, we found Brian Doherty, Stuart Peterson, to talk about this soybean rally, and I think, Brian, the question is, how long will this hang around, and what should we be doing right now?
Yeah, great question. Let's go back a month.
Okay.
A little over a month ago, soybean meal has led this rally. It's increased in value 25% in a month. So just imagine if corn could do that.
Right.
It's been what I call a displacement rally. That is, Argentina's had some drier weather concerns, so there is concern about their crop size. The market quickly reflects on the idea that, hey, Argentina is the largest exporter of soy meal in the world. In fact, the next largest is Brazil, and Argentina more than doubles Brazil.
Right.
So meal blows up. The funds who were short beans to a record amount about 6 weeks ago rapidly reversed positions and are now long. So this has been not only a short cover rally and fund buying rally, it's been a meal displacement rally. The thing we can't really get our hands around yet is kind of the idea what Argentina may be losing in yield or bushels, Brazil may be picking up.
Right. Or other parts of of South America may be seeing great yields
Paraguay.
as well. Yeah, Paraguay and other places. So what do we do? Are we protecting ourselves? Are we taking advantage of this? What are we doing?
Well, I think you got to. When you have big carryout, and here's the facts. In February, the USDA came out, lowered Argentina 2 million metric tons, raised Brazil 2 million, so you got a wash in South America,
right.
Lowered U.S. exports, increased U.S. carryout 60 million bushels. That's a big increase. So we've got a very abundant supply in the books right now, and it's likely that at these prices we're going to attract new crop acres to beans. We think maybe 1 million more acres. So the downside could be plentiful for beans, particularly in the short term if Argentina were to get some rain. So sell beans, defend it, buy puts. For new crop, you may even consider short-dated puts, spend less on time value, but get about 55, 53 days with the May short-dated puts.
Okay, so something to watch as we get into spring planting. I mean, seems like so many moving parts, but looking at the price right now, not a bad opportunity.
Not a bad opportunity. Just, I'm not a bear, but keep this in mind. When beans tumble, they're wicked and they're unforgiving, and they'll lose $1 in a week. So if you take about a 10 or 15% drop off the highs, that could put new crop beans down to $9 or less. Very typical move. So just bear in mind that's what's in store if things go bearish.
All right, appreciate it, Brian. Thank you so much. We'll be back with more Ag Day in just a minute.
To discuss marketing strategies, call 800-334-9779 or visit stuartpeterson.com.
Uh-oh. Welcome back to Ag Day here with Cindy Clausen, looking at the jet stream for the week. And Cindy, it looks like we're kind of starting another pattern here as far as the trough goes.
Yeah, we're going to see that kind of really favoring the eastern United States. As we take a look at the map, you'll see that we have a trough here in the north central, kind of northwestern United States, but that's going to move to the east and then kind of stick around the eastern part of the country, especially the northeast, as we get into the midweek, and then just kind of reinforcing shots of cooler air. Now we'll start off warmer, but we'll end off on a cooler note as we get towards the end of the week, while we see some warm air temperatures in the western United States. Heading into the weekend, we do see a big warm up though for much of the western half of the United States. Now, as a whole, we are looking at above normal temperatures in the northeast, below normal in the southeast, as well as in the northwestern United States, including parts of the northern plains. Looks like fairly warm temperatures in and around the Four Corners region. As we take a look at the precipitation expected this week, we are looking at above normal for parts of the East Coast, into the Northeast, into the Southeast as well, and all along the West Coast as well. We are expecting to see below normal precipitation this week, right on down the nation's midsection, right on down through the plains, down into the northern parts of Mexico as well. Much of the Corn Belt, especially the eastern Corn Belt, is expecting to see fairly normal precipitation as we head right on through the week. What about the further look into the future, the 30-day temperatures? A lot of folks really starting to pay attention to this as we start to get into our spring planting time. Below normal temperatures for much of the Great Lakes area, much of the Corn Belt, all the way into the northwestern United States, and we'll see those warmer temperatures hanging out along the south into Florida, into Texas, and over into the Four Corners region. Precipitation, that's a big one we're watching, and we're looking at above normal for much of the central eastern Corn Belt to the mid-Atlantic down to the Gulf Coast states. Also a bit on the wet side along the west coast. We're going to keep those conditions dry as you get into the Four Corners region, parts of the plain states as well. Some of those areas are already very dry and will be just a little bit on the dry side in the far northeast as well, but fairly normal in the upper Midwest and into the northern plains. That's a look at your national forecast. Now let's check on the weather where you live. Ely, Nevada, plenty of sunshine for you today with a high temperature of 34 degrees. Clinton, Indiana, rain is likely for you. Maybe a few flakes mixing in early with a high of 50 degrees. Douglas, Georgia, lots of sunshine today.
Up next, a red-hot Greg Peterson, or at least some pretty interesting sales at red-hot auctions in North Dakota. And later, a race that pits man and dog against some of the fiercest winter weather imaginable is now underway in Alaska. But now it faces some new challenges.
AgDay, brought to you by Ram Commercial, America's longest-lasting heavy-duty pickups.
Machinery Pete is always ready for a good auction. Today, he tells us about a recent impressive sale in North Dakota. Greg?
Well, I keep talking about how this market is all about condition. And regardless of the hours, if it's in good shape, these tractors are really selling well, folks. More proof came last week on a pair of auctions by our friends at the Steffes Group, and both of these auctions were farm sales in southeast North Dakota. Now last Wednesday, this very nice 2007 John Deere 8430 with 4,547 hours on it sold for $113,000. That's a very strong price. In fact, I looked in our Machinery Pete auction price data, and if we isolated a 2007 model with over 4,000 hours, this is the second highest one ever. Now the next day, again, same area, southeast North Dakota, another farm auction with red equipment. And a pair of tractors sold very well. Here's a picture of the 2011 Case IH 45 Quad Track. 1,635 hours on it, went for $233,000. Second highest auction price ever on a 45 Quad Track. Now the only higher one, actually on a sale I covered in east central North Dakota all the way back on December 7th, 2011. Here's a picture of it. And it was a 2010 model, 840 hours. Another sale by the Steffes Group, and it brought $280,000. Now also last Thursday, this 2004 Case IH MX 210, 2,827 hours on it, sold for $71,000, highest auction price in 27 months.
Still to come, the famed Iditarod dog race is now underway, but it faces additional scrutiny this year. Details when we come back.
In the Country, sponsored by Kubota. Tractors, hay tools, utility vehicles, mowers, and more. Visit KubotaUSA.com today.
Dog teams are off and running in the famed Iditarod race in Alaska, but the race approaching its 50th year is facing some big bumps in the road. Among the multiple problems facing organizers, a doping scandal, the loss of a major sponsor, and pressure from animal rights activists to end the event. The Iditarod's board disclosed in October that 4 dogs belonging to 4-time winner Dallas Seavey tested positive for a banned substance. The organization said it couldn't prove Seavey administered the drugs to his dogs and didn't punish him, but the rules on doping have now been changed to hold mushers liable.
From the very beginning has maintained that he did not administer any banned substances to his dogs. He's maintained that he did not violate any rules with regard to any banned substances.
Race officials dispute the contention and blame activists for using manipulative information to pressure corporate sponsors like Wells Fargo, a longtime backer, to sever ties with the Iditarod. Regardless, race officials are confident the event will go on for many years to come. And that's all the time we have this Monday morning. We're sure glad you tuned in, spent part of your day with us. From all of us here at AgDay, I'm Clinton Griffiths. Have a great day in farm country.
AgDay, brought to you by Ram Commercial, America's longest lasting heavy-duty pickups.